5 o'clock. I'm calling to order this regular meeting of the Bandera Economic Development Corporation. We're at the Best Western Conference Center, 711 Main Street, Bandura, Texas. All the directors are present. Item 2 is a public hearing. In accordance with the Government Development Act, Sections 202.159 and 505.160 of the Texas Local Government Code, a public hearing will be held by the Bandera Economic Development Corporation, a Type B Economic Development Corporation, on March 25th, 2021 at 5 p.m. at Bandera City Hall, which we are not at City Hall, by the way. We're at the Best Western Hotel. We weren't sure of the date or the location when this was printed. We're at 711 Main Street, Bandura, Texas, 78003 to solicit input prior to expending funds in support of the following projects. Item A, there are two that we're going to discuss today. We'll do the first one. Item A is to expend $40,000 for one half of the principal of the Texas Water Development Board loan to the City of Bandera for water infrastructure improvements for 2021. The total principal for 2021 is $80,000. This would be made on a reimbursement basis only if the board decides to approve this expenditure. Do I have comments? Comments from the board?
No comments on,
Is there anybody on?
hand raised?
Nobody zoomed in?
Well, we've got Daniel Tucker who's attempting to zoom in, but he's not connected yet. He is connected now.
Suzanne, would you elaborate more? Suzanne, would you elaborate more on the,
Ma'am?
would you elaborate more on the loan, the board loan? I think several people are kind of new to the process.
On the loan?
of what it
Okay.
is, and
We secured a $3 billion loan from the Texas Water Development Board to basically revamp all of our drinking water infrastructure here in town. It includes a new elevated tower over here. We've redone the lines. We've brought them into the 20th century as far as technology for connecting the wells. Our Public Works Department no longer has to run from place to place to flip on a well here, flip off a well there. We've improved and streamlined our water tracking process, whereby we know how much water we've lost, how much water we've billed for, how much water we've used, and that sort of thing. It's a very extensive project. We've been working on it for about 4 years and finally secured it in 2018. It's a 30-year loan. The principal is $80,000 this year. It'll be $85,000 next year, and it'll stay about there for a while. The interest is about $64,000 a year, but that is covered by ordinance through interest in seeking property taxes. Is that you, sir?
I apologize.
It's again, it's an ongoing project. We'll be starting the tower here in April and May. So any questions about what we're doing or how we're doing it? Did you want to expand?
Are we the only ones contributing to this, or who else is?
No, ma'am, the city pays for it. The city's paid all of it up until now.
Which has been how much, do we know?
Well, until now, we've only paid the interest. This is the first year we've paid the principal.
Okay.
We've already paid the principal. This will be a reimbursement if the board approves it. Of course, there's a process to that too. If you approve this expenditure, it goes to council, and then they have to approve that we've approved it. And then there are 2 readings of a resolution, which, if this passes, we'll do on April 1 and April 15 at the city council meeting. And then there's a 60-day wait after that before the city can apply for the funds.
Okay.
But once it's been approved, it doesn't have to come back to you again to disperse the funds. You've already approved it. The resolutions have been read, and the council has approved it as well.
Okay.
Anything else?
what did you mean by,
Ma'am?
what did you mean by already paid for it? they've already paid for it, this is a reimbursement.
We've already made the $80,000 payment this year.
It's the first year.
That's the first
Okay,
principal.
'cause it's like the way you said it, I was like, okay, I think this.
No, we've not already
Okay.
paid for the project. No, we've
Yeah,
already made, the
okay.
city's made the first payment this year.
Yeah,
So
And
this would
you said
be
these payments are to last 30 years?
30 years.
And you said the first two will be 80 and 85, and then?
It'll be 85 next year, and it stays around 85 or 90 all the way through. And it's a less than 3% interest rate, but it does vary as you go through.
Okay.
In fact, if you would like to see it, just send me a request for it. I've got the pro forma,
Okay.
and that'll give you all the details of how much we're paying and what we're paying for, of interest and in principal. Yes, ma'am.
and if the EDC does not approve it, what happens?
Well, we've already paid it, so nothing.
I know, but I mean, what is the? what's
If
the
you mean,
impact, I guess?
if we don't approve the expenditure, it doesn't go to council, because they only have to approve it if we approve it.
Right.
But
I
then
guess I guess
council-
I'm talking-
council could-
I'm talking more along the lines of the project itself, the risk at the project level and the city and the.
This is such, because this is the first year that we have cleared up our other debts, our previous bonds, where the EDC was paying $42,000 a year, I believe, on the principal and the interest. Those are all cleared up. That's why this is the first year that the city is paying the principal on this particular loan because of our debt ratio. Once all of our other bonds were paid, we got forgiveness, so to speak, up until 2021 when our first payment was due.
Okay, I'm trying to kind of resolve the EDC with this city and the obligation and because I have said before and I'll say it again, I don't think it should be the burden of the EDC to pay for the infrastructure of a city that has clearly not been due diligent with their money and their maintenance of the infrastructure and the streets and all of that stuff. But I know that there's a plan now. I know the city's in a very different place than it has been in the past. I do know that this is, desperately needed because it has been neglected for all these years. And I know that EDC was paying around that amount for in the past annually. What was that for exactly?
We paid the part of the principal and the interest on the 2006 bond, which was paid off in 2020.
And what did that do in 2006?
That was, again, it was infrastructure. It was part of the 13th Street project and part of the 2010 bond was the $875,000 bond for sewer line improvements. And the EDC paid on that as well. But that was paid off in 2019, I believe.
And that actually happened, that whole project completed? So this is about the same amount that we've been obligating?
Yes, ma'am. It's not a
to
strain on our
support at
budget
this point.
particularly.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other comments from the board? From the public, now that you've heard a little more of the detail of this? All right, let's move on to item 2. To expend $75,000 in support of the cost of the City of Bandera Master Plan Phase 2. The city has already paid approximately $35,000 for the Master Plan Phase 1 and part of Phase 2. Phase 2 is a total of $84,000, but it is the most comprehensive portion, I believe, of this plan. We're attacking zoning, codes, building codes, things that are the essence of our city, the very thing that makes the city tick. The total project will be about $300,000 before it's all over, but I believe Phase 2 would certainly be of interest to the EDC because it does help us look to the future and how we're going to grow Bandera and help Bandera along. Comments from the folks? Yes, ma'am. Would you identify yourself, please?
Elaine Collins. I live 10 a master plan, and then actually nothing ever really got done. And here we go again.
Well, we're just now getting into the real meat of the master plan, and I believe April 7th. Ma'am,
25 years?
I'm sorry, could you speak up?
Have done that in the last 25 years?
We have said that for the last 25 years. Unfortunately, I believe, though, that
Again,
with the leadership that we have now, the administration that we have now, that we will be able to conform to a master plan and actually implement some of the things that are really, really important to the growth of our city. One of the things that we've developed on our own is a comprehensive capital improvement plan, and you've heard part of that today. We never got that into a master plan, but we are going forward with that now. So it's if you would attend some of these meetings, I think you'd get an insight as to what the Simple City is doing for the city. Thank you. Comment? Comments?
So you touched on zoning and codes. Who would cover that, and what does that money cover, and who does that go to?
We have signed a contract with Simple City Design,
Okay.
and the city has signed a contract. What they're doing is they've had several DNA roundups, rodeos. We're having another meeting April the 1st. April the 1st? Yeah. And the first part was getting input from the citizens, the public, the business owners, the residents. And then they're taking that and they're meshing it together and coming up with some ideas. None of it is, cast in stone. But I believe that people who are trained, educated, and experienced in this community development is much better than, thank you. April 6th and 7th. Just trying to hit and miss, which is what we've been doing all along. And our codes, our building codes and our zoning codes are in dreadful shape and way antiquated. So these are some of the things that they're going to help us with, get that stuff straightened out and get it so that it fits our city.
And then after phase 2, what do we follow through with?
Ma'am?
Then after phase 2, what would come after we approve this?
They're still working on it. They'll be working on this for quite a while. We haven't even gotten into phase 3 yet, and the council has not approved phase 4. So I think we're going to just sort of take it as it comes and see where we go with it. Tony?
So, to kind of touch on Elaine, which I know is her concerns, it is my opinion, and I've been involved with the city since I moved back. I grew up here. I moved back here in 2010 and 2014. I got involved in the city, and as you know, I've been in various roles. I've struggled with the fact that nobody really has a guide to, like the P&Z doesn't know. When they have somebody that comes and asks what they want to, they want to do something with their property, or they want to do a certain business, or they want to do certain things, the P&Z doesn't really have a good guide to have a good discussion with that landowner. Like, for instance, if somebody wanted to come in and tear 3 buildings down and put in a skate park, I mean, it's their money. They can do it. It's public funds. People say, why can't the city stop certain things like the Dollar General coming in? It's public property, and they buy that property with their own money, and they can do with it what they want. And I have seen a huge evolution in this town. I've also seen people that have grown up here that do not take care of their buildings, that are in dire need, and they are, some of it is because they feel as though it's too much to take on. Sometimes they feel like they don't want to deal with the city because they think that the city's going to make them bring it up to current fire codes and ADA compliance, and it's better for them just to stick their head in the sand. There's a lot of struggles, and there's not a lot of solutions. So there's a lot of problems and a lot of solutions. The master plan that you talked about before, I attempted to read that myself. I consider myself fairly educated and fairly experienced. And it had a lot of really good vision and a lot of really good information in there. But in my opinion, it was way over the heads of the people that were in place to implement it. Not because I talked down to, I don't mean that in the sense that they wouldn't have been able to accomplish those things had they not been explained it, but I think it was written at a very high level and without a lot of, this is what you should do, and not a lot of how to do it. And so in people that haven't been through that experience, they don't know that roadmap to get there. So to me, that was a lot of money, a lot put into something, and they walked away and nobody knew what to do with it. So the good news is that Simple City are small town people. They have been through this in the homes, in the towns that they've been through, and this is a passion of theirs to help small towns with what they're doing. They appreciate small towns and their uniqueness. They don't want Bandera to be a cookie cutter, anything else. They want to help us save our buildings. They want to help us also be ADA compliant, but with the uniqueness of Bandera and not change who we are and our look and feel and all of that. And so part of this money, because we are going the extra mile, is asking them to look at our codes and ordinances that support what our idea is to maintain who we are. And I don't like the keep Bandera Bandera, because everybody here has a different vision of what Bandera is. My Bandera were goat farmers. They made shingles out of cypress trees and they farmed goats. There wasn't a cow around. So everybody has a very different vision of Bandera. But what I do want is for it to be unique. What I don't want is a bunch of chain records. I don't object to chains. I just don't want them coming in here looking like every other chain. And I have been told many times that you can't change that. Well, if anybody's been to Bryan College Station and seen the maroon Whataburger, I'm pretty sure they could change that. They can ask nicely and they can talk to people and come up with a win-win solution. And so our ordinances have been a struggle. A lot of our citizens here, many of my phone calls are the fact that we don't fairly enforce those across the board. We're going to get that a lot with building and permitting, and we've seen a lot of people come in and buy things recently. And so we need help to figure out how can we maintain Bandera without putting so much burden on the property owners or keeping people from moving here and investing in our town, because we don't want to hinder that. And so this plan to me is very different than the one that we approached before, because it's looking at it holistically. And if I know I've got the floor and I'm kind of talking at people, but I really had an interesting conversation with Linda from Simple City yesterday. And it was around the fact that, in my opinion, that Bandera has been kind of saved, because Highway 16 and 173 don't really go anywhere when you come out of the Metroplex. That they can't get somewhere else more efficiently. Like I-10 goes straight to Kerrville, but very rarely, unless somebody's out on a Sunday drive, they're just going to come down come 16, go through Medina, and eventually get to Kerrville. They're going to come out I-10. So all of the major highways out of San Antonio are getting, all those little communities are getting eaten by what I refer to as the blob. And Bandera it's happening. They're eliminating hills between us and Helotes. Every day there's another, subdivision going in and land being destroyed, and it's moving out 16. And so until or unless we decide we want to do something, we're going to end up like what Kerrville did, because Kerrville doesn't have a whole lot of their historical building and their charm. They've worked really hard with their downtown area where Shriner is, but they had to put that back because they allowed somebody to get rid of it before. And so it was, there's a whole lot of moving parts and possibilities and what ifs, but I really hope that this is going to do it. And I do believe that we have the people in place in our city and in our boards and involved in our community that are capable of actually implementing this. And it will be more of a simple plan and more of a how-to, not a dump and go, which I believe is what happened before. So, thank you, I know that was very winded, but
I've learned better than ask you to keep it to 25 words or less. It just never
but
happens.
it's a lot of information, it's a lot of information, and it's a lot
Further
of
comment or
words.
discussion on this item?
Just one simple
Yes,
one,
Patricia.
I will keep it to 25 words or less. Yes, it's very costly, and I recognize that. But from one that is sitting on P&Z, Jared has just joined that organization, you can go to Ordinance 1A, and it says, the sky is blue. You can go to Ordinance 1644, and it will say the sky is gray. There is no consistency, and we had inquired at one time about completely rewriting the ordinances so they were not contradictory in so many sections. And I think the recoding of all of the ordinances was going to cost, like, I can't remember, Suzanne, you may can, but something like $20,000, $30,000 in and of itself. So that's a big portion of getting the ordinances to be consistent and make sense. Trust me, I've gone through that, and I'm not a builder, but
Yes, ma'am.
The other piece, just like what Patricia was saying, is that when we revamped our EDC guide and we wanted to do our grants and things, and it was going to be partnering with the building owners to revamp their facades and do some really big building improvements and some historic restoration, we identified several things in that ordinance that contradicted what each other, and that every time somebody went to apply for a permit, depending on which side you were looking at, it was contradicting. And we did identify those, but that was 4 years ago, and nobody's done anything with it for various reasons. But this is going to look at it from a whole thing and implement it all at once. So that.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, in a case like that, I'm going to adjourn the public hearing and move on to item 3, the workshop on the 2021 budget. We had talked about amending our budget to reflect the increased sales tax revenue in the 1920 budget, which was increased by $50,000. EDC has typically done this every year because by doing that, the 10% of our item number, 45,000, there's a carryover. By increasing the 10% allocation, whatever's left over at the end of the year can be carried over into the next year. Now, that's a lot to think about and try to move around in your head, but here's a simple bottom line is we can't do it this year. We've waited too long. This was on the agenda in December 31st. The year has to be closed out. The prior year has to be closed out, and we're already in audit. So that's one disappointing thing. It was on our December 16th agenda, and because of a lack of quorum, we didn't have that meeting. So that's off the table this year. However, if you look down under 47,000 miscellaneous projects, the Bandera Meat Market has sold, so that would be a $10,000 obligation that we could move to another line item. We're at 47,008 on the first page. So that's $10,000 that you can move someplace else. You can move it back into just put it back into the reserves. Whatever you want to do with it. We have paid 47,009. We're going to be looking at that tonight. Sully's here. 4711 is not due until next budget year. 47012 has been paid. 47015 has been paid. So my question to you is, for now, do you want to just let this money go back into the reserves? And then I still want to set up a 50,000 line item, which is the projects, the incentives, the grants, that sort of thing, but with a different sort of And, we take a closer look at it this time and really set some goals and issues. I really don't care what y'all want to do with it, guys. Remember that council has to approve whatever we do. And council is the one that amended this original budget because we had 100,000 at 48,030, the street project, and 50,000 over here under 50,050,000, which was the incentives and economic development plans. So, comment. Tony. Surprise.
Always me. So, our revenue, this is our annual income, which is like approximately 292,000. So, half of that, more than half of that, if we approve the 75 and the 40,000 and the 25,000, that's 140,000 to the city. So that's almost half of our budget, half of our revenue for a whole year would go to the city. I just want to point that out. Could be good, could be bad. Just making a note of my note. And then I have a question on what you said about the 10% promotions. We can adjust other budget items, but we can't adjust that one?
No, we cannot adjust from the 1920 budget into the 2021 budget. We can adjust anything we want to in this
But
budget.
next year.
What do we do?
2020.
We're not
1920.
1920 and 20, this is our 2021 budget.
Right. So, okay, and this took me a while, to understand, and so I'm gonna kind of explain for I love new faces, but sometimes I feel like sometimes I'm over-explaining. So 10% of our, 0.5% of our sales tax in the city is our budget, is the EDC budget. 10% of that we can spend on what we call promotions. And if we don't spend all of that in 1 year, then we can roll that over to next year and the next year. So ultimately, it could be more than 10% of our current budget, but it's never more than 10% of each year added together, right? So it just keeps rolling over. So we don't lose that. We just have to count it in next year's revenue. Is that what you're saying, Suzanne?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
So we don't lose that. We just have to put it in next year's revenue. We have to say.
That's correct. We don't lose anything. It just goes
Okay.
back into the
We just can't do it right
fund
now.
reserves.
Okay.
The money's in the bank.
The 10%, the promotional 10% that.
For this year?
The one you said that we can't adjust it. Wasn't that what you were?
Well, no,
saying?
we've spent all of it and we carried over the balance.
Oh, okay. And so okay, all right. So anyway, I'm gonna finish my explanation. So what that means is that because it's based on sales tax, you have a quarter, everybody pays in their sales tax, and then it gets paid to the comptroller, and eventually the check gets sent to us. So we're a little behind, right? And so every year when we budget based on last year's numbers, and we approximate. But it has to, at some point, be reconciled to actual. And so when that last payment comes in of last year's budget, then we know how much our true 10% is, not what we projected. And we typically project low. So that's what she's talking about, that we now reconcile it and bring the numbers up. So most of the time we have more at the end of the year that we can use or roll over into the next one.
May I clarify that?
Please.
Our sales tax revenue is based on the city's projection. We don't get to project our own sales tax
We as a
revenue.
corporate,
We take 1/3 of whatever the city is projecting
Right.
to base our budget on.
Yeah, the city gives us the number, the projected number, but it's still a projection.
It is, it's absolutely projection. And last year,
Right.
we, the EDC, increased our revenue by $50,000 in a COVID. Thank you for all the local businesses and the people who are staying home and shopping local.
Yeah.
But that happened last year. But if you look on down, folks, under 45,000, I beg your pardon, promotional and marketing expense, 28,750 is our actual 10% of our actual projected budget. But you'll see the prior year carryover is $5,503. So unfortunately, we cannot increase that by another 5,000 because of the timing of this whole thing. But we'll be more on top of it this coming year. and make sure that we get the advantage of that extra whatever's left over. And at the rate we're going, we're not getting very many applications, although the city has put out, tomorrow's supposed to be our last day. The EDC, we've received maybe 2, I think, but we haven't set a deadline. But as we go on through this, we'll set up a workshop with the city and kind of figure out where we're going from there. So, as I said, we're just pretty much rocking on along there.
So,
I want to talk to you about 49,000 Parks and Recreation. The reason that was not on a public hearing today is because we don't have a project yet. And, well, the way I think this should go, and as the mayor, I kind of get to have my way, unless we have a project, unless we have something, a plan, there's no use in us and to coming to EDC, and EDC should not give us money just because we say we want to put something in the park. You know, so when we have, I think we're looking at maybe some satellite parks. May they're going to announce
Parks and
the
Wildlife.
awards through Parks and Wildlife, a grant for that, so kind of hold back on this and see where we go from there.
and this is the same 25,000, we put that in the budget every year, and sometimes the city comes to us with projects and sometimes they don't.
Right. And I wanted to share this with you too while we're talking about the budget. When we did this budget, in prior years, EDC's boards have budgeted for every penny they had. I didn't do that this year. I left $102,000 in the bank in CDs and another couple of $100,000 in cash. However, you will notice on 20100, in order to balance this budget, I'm using $205,000 of the fund balance to bring over here. It's available money, but we still have money in the bank is what I'm trying to say. So should we have something come up and a business owner comes to us and say, hey, you know, my roof just fell in and don't know what I'm going to do now, then that's something we could consider because we do have money in reserve. Any thoughts on the budget? I know this is really the first time that y'all have really sat down and looked at this thing. So we don't have to come to any conclusion tonight, no discussions tonight. I think it'd be great for everybody to take a look at this thing, ask me questions. You have questions. I think I'm the only one left from when we did this budget. So yeah, anyway, glad to ask questions because it's just everybody needs to know what we're doing with our money. Yes, sir.
I have one. The Parks and Recreation, what you were saying about satellites, and are we talking about
That's me.
outside the city? Oh, you,
No, within the city, but in the
within the
neighborhoods.
city? Okay, all right.
The one project we're looking at, the city's looking at right now, is to build a playscape adjacent to the skate park over on Maple Street.
Okay.
It's a Texas Parks and Wildlife grant. We don't know the status of it yet. The match is $75,000, but that can be done easily with in-kind. Bandura Electric has gotten on board. If the EDC approves their 25, it'll be fine. But I would like to see 2 or 3 small parks all over town because all of our kids don't live over here on Maple Street.
Right. Oh, just wanted clarification on it.
No, sir, not outside of town.
Okay.
Yes, Tony?
We can support some things in the county, like we can support events that are at Mansfield Park when we know to be proven but the economic, the economics of the city, like on a weekend like this, even though the rally's happening at Mansfield, we get a lot, our businesses definitely are positively impacted by that.
Absolutely.
So we can support things like that through our promotional funding and some other things. just like we supported the feasibility study to cover Mansfield Park. For that reason, I don't know where that project is right now, but the county, it's county-owned property, but we supported the feasibility study to be done because so many times our rodeos that have been, you know, so much money went into the planning and then the last minute rain, they couldn't have it because it wasn't a covered arena or something like that. So that impacts our economics. We've spent money, our organizations have spent money planning. And so that kind of stuff we can do outside the county, but it's limited. I don't know if that.
Okay,
I just
yeah,
wanted to
that's a
make
good
sure.
answer.
Which kind of question?
Anything else, folks? Alrighty then. Any questions about the line items on our agenda, Okay, in a case like that, we're going to move on to item 4. Visitors to be heard. Has anybody signed up to be heard?
I didn't ask anybody because they signed up for the public hearing, so if anybody would like to speak at this regular meeting, raise your hand and I'll bring you the clipboard.
Okay.
No? Okay. Moving on.
Item 5 is consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are considered being of a routine nature by the Economic Development Corporation and may require only limited discussion. Any board member may request that items be removed from the consent agenda and be considered separately for the purpose of discussion and voting. Item A is the minutes from the February 25th, 2021 regular meeting. Item B is invoices due. Item C is reimbursement of QuickBooks subscription for March 2021. I want to make one brief comment about the attorney invoice. I did clarify that they received our check for $674.50, so the attorney invoice is $29.50 or 90 cents. Do I have a motion? Tony?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Tony. Jared seconds. All in favor? All in favor, none opposed. Okay, item C. Presentation by Bandera Fire and Rescue to obtain a minimum of 2 acres of land needed to sufficiently house a fire station training facility. Max, are you doing this?
Willie's gonna do it.
Okay, Willie Smith.
Do y'all have a copy of the proposal in front of you? There was one submitted at EDC. Did you get a copy of it?
I think she's in the middle of email.
Okay, everybody has it? Okay.
I emailed it out to everybody. I don't know if they brought it. I've got one.
Not a problem. Got it. Someone committed to the ring. So basically, we have a problem with Bandera Fire and Rescue, is we have run out of room in our current situation and we need an auxiliary location. Bandera Fire and Rescue right now is trying to expand with training and facilities and equipment, and right now we have no room. If anybody, there is, with that proposal, there is pictures. I implore you to please look at the pictures and see what we're dealing with next door to City Hall. Trucks are directly up on the door. If we're gonna have a meeting, we have to move everything out of the fire station to be able to have a meeting. There's nowhere really to train unless you move all the trucks out. That way you've got them parked on Main Street, you've got them parked in the back parking lot, and that's our training facility. Okay, we have an entire locker of old equipment, new equipment, everything's kind of shoved in one area because that's all we have. We've located a piece of property owned by EDC, which is at the corner of Buck Creek and Old San Antonio. It's on the northeast corner if y'all are familiar with that area. It's just down from the apartments, between Buck Creek and the apartments, right there on the corner of Old San Antonio and Buck Creek. It's directly adjacent to the area where Silver Sage is putting in the assisted living, or I'm not real sure what they're calling it. Tiny house community. It's directly adjacent to that. This piece of property, I do have the legal description within the proposal. It's currently priced at $142,140. That is the assessed value of that property as it sits blank. I sought some help from somebody who has some experience with this type of thing, and he suggested that approaching the EDC and asking if they'd be interested in selling it to Bandera Fire and Rescue. There's a couple things that y'all know that a lot of people don't. You have to sell it at market value. you couldn't sell it to us for $1. It wouldn't work like that. You have to sell it to us for market value, which is $142,000. What we're asking is that there is this person also told me I should say first, they have to sell you to it for $142,000, but it's up to them how they sell it to you. You
May
can
I-
charge us $1 a day for the next however many days.
May I interrupt you?
Absolutely.
142,000, that's the assessed
That's the appraised
appraised
value, I
value.
should say. Appraised
That is
value.
not
County
fair
appraised.
market value.
Fair market value.
So fair market value at this point is a question mark. It'll be more than 142,000, closer to 200,000, I imagine.
Promise you that.
That's, yeah, there you go.
I just wanted that to be clear.
What we're looking at is working with EDC and finding a suitable way to sell it to Bandura Fire and Rescue. This facility would really assist our community. We would be able to be better trained, better housed, we'd be able to hold bigger equipment. We're sitting in a building right now that's 3 stories. Right now, the equipment we have, in some eyes, is insufficient if this was to catch on fire. But we can't house equipment big enough to protect this building because we don't have the facility. As we know, insurances go off fire response times for a lot of your insurance. This could improve some of that. These are the things that we've looked at and how we believe that with EDC selling us this land, we can help EDC and in turn help the city and the community, our entire service area, which of course is covered by EDC in most of this. Now, I spoke with Max earlier. Max is our fire chief. I'm low on the totem pole in the fire department. We were speaking about we would be willing if we could work with EDC, work with a lawyer. We could go local and work out a pricing situation and a sales situation that would be conducive to us because we are completely volunteer. We run completely off donation. So we do have money, but having a lump sum to pay for this is not feasible because then we wouldn't be able to build anything or buy anything for the next 100 or so years. So we do rely heavily on grants. So we would like to work with EDC and be able to purchase this property. What would go with this property would be basically a substation to house bigger equipment, more equipment, a training facility. I mean, if we wanted to host a class for all the volunteer fire departments in the county, right now we couldn't do that. If we wanted to have a meeting for all the fire chiefs, we wouldn't be able to probably do that. With this facility, we would. And we would, improve our community as a whole.
I believe that you told me, or Jeff told me, that if you get the property, chances are Mueller would donate the building. Is that still part of the program?
There is a grant situation with that. In order for us to receive the grant from Mueller, we would have to own the property, not lease. We would have to own the property or be purchasing the property. Mueller basically does not want to put up a building and then have somebody come in later and say, well, that's our building now. They want the building to be Bandera Fire and Rescues.
I just wanted the board to be clear that even though, you can't really afford the property, you're not paying for a building either. So it doesn't look like, hey, they've given us the property now, ha-ha.
It is, everything is grant driven and donation driven. If anybody would like to pay for a building, not today, maybe tomorrow.
Questions from the board? Jared?
You brought up training facility,
Yes, sir.
specifically other than room for like classroom type of training. What other type of training would you want to facilitate there?
We've asked for a possible smokehouse, to put a smokehouse in, to do hands-on, actual, real-life training for our firefighters, so they are better equipped to serve the community.
Would you be able to rent that space out to other departments? We don't have facilities.
We collaborate with other departments on trainings.
We would not rent it out. We would make it available for any other fire departments, law enforcement, anybody like that to do training. And just as a side note, we're asking to do it to have an additional building. I like the old-fashioned small town firehouse, middle of town. We would keep our engine there because it mostly operates off of hydrants, and we don't really have any hydrants very far out of town. So we would keep our engine there. That would be our main firehouse, part of the small town charm. It's all centrally located. We have floods. Town gets cut off. that would be somewhere for people to go, floods, any other kind of emergencies. But yes, that training facility, just like we think of our fire department, it's everybody's, it's this communities. So we would not be charging to do training out there. If somebody wanted to use the facility for something, they could come and use the facility.
An expanse of a Red Cross facility in time of disaster, more space to put people. I've been here for 2 floods in a row on Memorial Day, 15 and 16, where I worked over 24 hours in a row for the marshal's office. And we could not get in the middle school to put people inside the middle school. We could put some people in the fire department, but again, we're pulling trucks, we're putting them in the parking lot, and we have limited space even when we do that. So this would be an expanse of a Red Cross type facility.
And we do have things set up like that with the middle school and stuff like that to do that, but the problem is that a lot of times the key holders themselves can't get in to open it. I know a few of the floods in the past, we've had, for the first day or two, had people at the firehouse until we could get those other facilities open. But it's just, central located, but no room to do anything else, so, we can get more equipment, more training, stuff like that, not be in everybody's way right here in town when we do it.
Jared? Yeah, he had his hand up.
With the proximity of that location to the high school, when it comes to response time at peak traffic hours right there, have you guys looked at that? What's the impact you're looking at?
And that, like I say, we'd have vehicles at both stations, and so we try to split it up to where we'd have similar type equipment at each one, so that, say for instance, on a busy weekend like this with the bike rally, we could come in through the back to go to calls out that way without having to come into Main Street and use Main Street to follow everything else out. Stuff on this end over here, if it's something in the city limits where you're gonna need hydrants and stuff like that, there's no way around, being in here. But
Take for instance, we do have a boat that we can use, but we would keep that at our central station on Main Street because that's how we would get to the river. That'd be the easiest way to get to the river, as opposed to maybe we would have a brush truck, one of our brush trucks at the station on Buck Creek, due to the fact that we can reach the outlying areas that may not require, but may not require a brush truck so much in town, but our outlying areas would be that. And there'd be a lot of strategizing that would go into that. Tony?
Why is it that we don't use the Red Cross designated shelter?
a good question.
Yeah.
Thank you. Because the key holder thing has been an issue in the past, and, we just went through a crazy ice storm, and the middle school was not even brought up.
We did after the last, not the ice storm, but the last water incident. Wasn't as major as the one before. We do have access through the fire marshal now to be able to get a key to the junior high without having somebody to come in there.
There is Knox boxes now being placed on certain buildings where there weren't before. John Stiff, the county fire marshal, has worked very hard on that project to get that done.
Okay. I just know that sometimes, it just always floors me, as small as we are, it just shouldn't be this hard to get logistics and communication to flow.
A lot of egos get in the way.
And no fingers at you, it's all over it's all over.
Point wherever you want to point, I'll explain everything.
Okay, any more discussion from the board before we go into executive session to discuss the possible sale of this property? Okay, at 5:51, I'm going to recess the regular session of the Board of Directors of the EDC. It's 6:20, I'm reconvening the regular session of the regular meeting of the Bandura Economic Development Corporation. Number 8 is action following closed session. The Bandura Economic Development Corporation will convene to consider any action after a closed session. Tony?
I'd like to make a motion to table this item until our April meeting.
Our next regular meeting is April the 22nd, is that?
I think so, yeah. I'll second.
Christine seconds. Further discussion? All in favor? All in favor, none opposed.
Thank you for
Item
the
9.
presentation, guys. We just have a lot of questions.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, we expect-
Okay.
we got some talking to do.
Absolutely.
Thank y'all for your time.
All right, item 9, discussion of possible action regarding the approval of a second amended performance agreement between the BEDC and Bandera Natural History Museum. In your packets, folks, you have the
Thank
letter
you.
from
Thank y'all very much.
Thank you.
Sully. Sully's here. We've all been through this. They've clearly met the requirements to amend this agreement a second time. When we took our tour, they got to meet their second person. They've opened the new wing. Sully, do you have anything you want to say?
Well, I just want to make it clear that, one thing is, we came to y'all, this thing was supposed to have been done in October, and it wasn't y'all's fault, it was our fault, so we had a delay in the construction. And, but we overcame that, and we have it built, and, so that was the other, one condition, that the art hall would be, the new Spain art hall would be completed. Well, y'all all seen, it's completed now. And we have, hired, one, 20-hour person, and we have made a move, we have another 20-hour person in the art hall. And we have a cashier, existing cashier that we have right now. And we're in the process of trying to hire another cashier. So we don't have, and y'all have it in there that y'all will do it, okay? That you will, that once completed, you will do this. And so, and I gave Suzanne the budget of showing our employee for 2021, which is $21,000 above what it was in 2020. And so we do have it included in our budget, and our goal is to have it done by May the 1st, and hopefully earlier. But, we want to make sure we get the right person. And so, anyway, I just wanted y'all to make sure that y'all knew that we didn't have that individual hired at this point, but we will be hiring. Okay?
Thank you.
But everything finished, as y'all saw, and we had 2 wonderful weeks of spring break. Believe me, it was really good. So
This will be the second $10,000 payment. And then our third payment will be due in October of 2021, which is in the next budget year. So if y'all agree to this, then we'll make the last payment. However, if you feel it's necessary, I've got all the financials. Sully has bent over backwards, he and Don Giles both, to get us everything that the previous board requested. We've made the tour, we've seen it with our own eyes, so at this time, I would like to entertain a motion. Tony?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the next
Thank you,
payment.
Tony.
Second.
Alan? Any further discussion? All in favor? All in favor, none opposed.
Great job.
I'll write you a
Sally.
check tomorrow.
are you the one I go to get the check? All right, well, before I leave, I know y'all are busy and everything, but I do want to thank the EDC for, I know we've had issues with this, and it's been, our fault as much as it, then we had the transition of the board and what have you. But initially, y'all had helped us with, the COVID situation. Y'all helped us there. We really appreciate that, because that was, we were closed for a period of time. And then, in addition to that, the parking lot is there because of y'all. And so, y'all have been very supportive of us, and hopefully we can support y'all as much as we've
Thank
y'all
you, Sally.
supported us.
Thank
So
you.
Thank y'all very much.
Keep it going.
I love that
Keep
y'all
it
are
going.
here. It's a jewel that we have, and I hope more local people find out about it.
Good,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you.
Y'all bring everybody you can. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to skip 10 and 11 because those were all closed session regarding the finances of the Bandura Natural History Museum. Okay, item 12 is a closed session. Bandera Economic Development Corporation will convene an executive session under 551-074 to discuss personnel, to discuss the position of the administrative assistant.
So, do we need a closed session for that?
That's when I ask you, do you want to do it in open or closed?
Oh, we have an applicant, that's what I did.
Yeah, sitting right in front of us.
I just thought we had a new friendly face. I just was like,
Oh.
interested in the EDC. Good.
The resume is in your packet.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Quite an impressive resume, by the way.
Thank you.
I don't mind
open or closed, so.
Okay, Karina, this is the Board of Directors of the EDC.
Nice to meet you all.
Nice to meet you.
You've all had a chance to, have you all had a chance to review her application?
I missed that memo. I didn't see that at all.
The way this will work, we can either go into closed session to discuss the position, or we could ask questions of Karina and then go into closed session to discuss the decision, or this is the only application we've received, we can wait for further applications.
I would, if you're okay with doing the open questions, I just have a couple of questions for her before, and then I may or may not have any for y'all.
Okay.
So do you have any questions for us on what the position is and what we do, or what's, any of that?
So I've done a little bit of research, and I think I have an understanding of what the Bandera EDC is all about, to promote and enhance the quality of life for the Bandera community. I don't have any specific questions for you guys.
Okay.
I did speak with her in the hall once I figured out who she was. So I kind of gave her some of the job description as far as like taking the minutes. Did she know QuickBooks? That she could use the city offices for certain things if she needed to, and, you know, doing the minutes and putting the packets together and that kind of thing. She asked me more about the job description, so I kind of went over that with her, but since I'm kind of new to this position too, I don't know all of the details, but
Right.
she did say she's familiar, or very familiar with QuickBooks.
Awesome.
Are you familiar with QuickBooks?
I haven't used it in a while, but yes, I'm familiar with QuickBooks. Me and my husband, we own a small construction firm, so that's how I got my familiarity with it.
Well, I'll warn you right now, nobody has posted anything, but we've had very little financial activity, so it won't be much to catch up, but, and once we get it open, I won't open it because I am the president and I sign checks. So it's sitting there ready to go whenever we're ready to move forward. But I'm sure I can help you get out the different reports, the budget versus actual and all that, reconcile the bank statements. We only write like 3 checks a month, so it's not like it's a huge bank statement to reconcile.
Okay.
Maybe I do have questions for y'all.
Okay.
Yeah. Just so we know as a board what the expectations are, so we can, you know, move forward appropriately. Yeah, so.
Is it a guaranteed amount of hours a month,
No.
or is it pay as you go?
Pay as you go.
Okay.
We ran the last one off because COVID hit right after she started. And we had so much going on. I mean, we were doing the
Yeah,
little
you were.
grants and the applications, and there was a lot going on. There was a lot more than yeah, so,
It takes a lot of organizational skills.
yeah, for sure.
You ought to see my
And don't
dentist
take
if
it the
I'm
wrong
serious.
way that she ran them off, okay?
No,
We do use cattle prods around here, you know.
Keep you in line. No, we had a lot more applications because of the COVID. We did some grant relief for our local businesses, and so we had a lot of applications, a lot of requirements. And so there was a lot going on, and it was a lot more hours than we had originally thought would be for that position, but we've leveled it out quite a bit, so.
This is one thing too that I'm not clear on. It just dawned on me. I believe we were paying our prior admin assistant's contract. I don't remember us ever filing 940s or 941s.
When I was president, I gave Deanna one.
You did?
I did, the
1099.
it was 1099.
Oh, 1099, that's a contract. 940s and 941s are the payment of Social Security and,
No, we didn't do that. We did
Fifth advan-
it.
yeah.
She wasn't an employee, so we did 1099.
you did file a 1099? Okay, so then we pay contract.
Okay.
We have the answer to that now.
So really the questions for the board is, so the way we've worked this before, do you have a home office or something that you,
I do have a home office. I live in Lake Hills.
okay,
I do have a setup there. that I
Okay.
can work out of. I wasn't sure if it was an at-home position or if you guys already had an office, but I'm very flexible.
it's been,
so.
yeah, as are we. We don't really have a home per se. City Hall, we have our filing system there. We have the printer that supports our checks. Our last admin had that, she had a home office and her printer actually was the same one we had at City Hall. So she was able to print the checks there and then come get them signed. So if you have a compatible printer, then you could do that. Otherwise, we'd have to print them at City Hall. But typically what happens is our main phone number comes into the City Hall offices so that somebody's there 8 to 5, regular hours, and they answer the calls. So they have our ready for business packets and they can answer some high level questions regarding the EDC. At that point, then the phone call is fielded to either the president or to you, depending on the question. The main things that our admins has helped us in the past with were we get applications for grants. And so you would follow up on that, make sure all of the applications are complete. The supporting information is there so that we can make an educated decision as a board. We meet once a month, so you would be responsible for recording us, getting the agenda packets out, with a timely manner for us to review, prepare them. You'd work with the president on that to get the agenda. And then you work with Jill, the city secretary, to get it posted on the website. Because we fall under TOMA, the Texas Open Meetings Act, so all of our meetings have to be posted 72 hours in advance. And then you would be responsible for following up on any action items, whether it be questions that the board has in a meeting or during the minutes, so that we can review them and approve them the next time. And then you would go back to City Hall there, because we have one page on their city website, and so all of our stuff is on that page. So you'd send her the approved minutes, and then she would post them. What are some of the other?
Yeah, scope of work was my biggest question, and
Yeah, so it's really between you and the president to make sure that you stay within the scope of what we've budgeted, and if you're getting kind of close to, you do our financials, you give our financial reports every month so that we know what's been in and out of QuickBooks, any kind of bills that we get in. You would maintain our, we have an email address, so you would log in, on a regular basis, just to make sure there wasn't anything there that needs of importance. You would send it to Suzanne,
Right
the
now, to
president,
me,
for
but-
now. Just really administrative duties, and because we're also remote, and because we're not allowed by law to talk to each other outside these meetings about things that are dealing with EDC that we might vote on, it really does fall on you and the president to convey and communicate information that we need so that we can discuss and make an educated decision at the next meeting. So it's just kind of a facilitating the stuff in between that happens.
And fortunately, we only meet once a month, so it's not like this happens every week where you're spending 18 hours trying to do whatever the council the board has asked you to do.
She's using Jill as an example.
Yeah, and we have a lot of forms already that are ready to go. We need to review them and perhaps make some changes on them, some agreements and contracts and that sort of thing. So we're all here to help, and I'm certainly here to help. And I know Jill is here to help, because we've been, trying to do all this stuff, kind of limping along here, and
I know that our filing system probably could use some work.
yes.
That was something that I wanted to do last year when everything got so crazy.
Some reorganizing.
Yeah, what is it?
Some reorganizing.
Yeah, it's semi-organized, but it's, it definitely, the files themselves, to me, don't represent a true professional, like, they're not in date order, so like if you've got, every year you have somebody come to you for money to help their event, then in my mind, their files should be in chronicle order backwards, right? So you should see the most latest one first or whatever. I mean, it's not something that I would say go in and just, redo the whole thing, but as you come across them, I would like to pay extra just to get that one file organized while you're in it and just kind of go, do it as you go, because that was my frustration. But we have a locked 4-stack file thing that's at City Hall.
And
so you
some
can
are better than others. For instance, this one started out with all of the best intentions, and then all this stuff got piled on top of it, so that's the sort of thing you'll be looking at,
Exhibit A? Yeah.
so.
What is your availability? How many hours do you see yourself being, open to work or coming in?
So my availability right now is at least 40 hours a week. Our business has been stalled since the pandemic started, so I'm very flexible as far as time goes, and whatever shift you guys need me for, and honestly whatever role you guys could use me for. So
Fantastic.
Go ahead.
Pre-pandemic, what was the hours you would be available?
Pre-pandemic, I was working, and it was just my husband and I running the office, and he was mainly on field. We were working about 40 to 60 hours a week.
Okay, so once business picks back up, because I
Well-
really hope that your business picks back up.
Well, let me just explain to you a little bit about our situation. He is going to stay operating the little bit of business that we've got going on right now, but I have been preparing academically for a long time for an opportunity like this. I graduated from Texas A&M in College Station, your Whataburger reference.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I graduated with a bachelor's in society, ethics, and law. So this is right up my alley. I've been looking for an opportunity like this. Obviously, the pandemic hasn't made it easy for job seekers, but I'm ready to move into the field that best suits my academic. So I'm just looking to build, I'm looking to grow, and I'm looking for long-term.
Excuse me. We only budgeted for 12 to 15 hours a week. So,
Okay, would that be enough to keep you busy, or?
I could definitely consider it 12 to 15 hours a week. We could start there. I mean, I would hope that in the future there would be a possibility of maybe coming on full-time, but I would not mind starting there.
I do know that other EDCs have done that, and we've talked about that. We've talked about having somebody full-time, but we just didn't have the facility at City Hall, and there were, different, so, I mean, that's something we could discuss future-wise if it,
there's plenty to do to keep her busy.
And with certain skill sets too, if you've got the right admin to do certain research for you, then, obviously, if that would be valuable, right, exactly.
There is some backlog work too that's gonna need to be done in the beginning,
Okay.
just so you all know, because I've looked in the filing cabinets and like everything that comes in, I put it in this one file that says to be filed, so that I'm not in there, so there's.
You picked up where I left off?
Yeah, so there's a lot of, so it could be more in the beginning
To be filed.
until things get leveled out.
Okay. So is this something that, Suzanne, you would be able to work with her?
Yes.
On, like, to get started and up at City Hall, and there's a place for her to work and?
Yeah, we'll put her out there. We'll figure out someplace for her.
Apparently we've already hired you because I'm already referring to you.
Well, we can't squeeze one more desk into my office, our office.
Well, she can work at the council.
We'll put her at the council table,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, for the next week, she could work in the administrator's office too, if we have something going on in the, anyway, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Confidentiality is a very, very important part of this job. I've been emailing back and forth with our attorney, and they've sent me a confidentiality agreement for our contracts. but they haven't sent me an employee confidentiality agreement. In fact, they seem to think that it's not we don't enter into a contract with our part-time employees, so they don't feel like that there's something that we could do except to express to her the importance of confidentiality, and then that's, of course, grounds for dismissal.
But if we're hiring a 1099 as a contract employee, extra employee as a contractor, that's what we're hiring her as. Not, the employee is not a word on the table right there. It's a 1099, she's a contractor.
Well, yes, but there's no contract with her to perform X number of hours a week to do this or that or that or this or this.
Well, there should
So she's a contract employee.
There should, but it's just like hiring a contractor. There's a expectation of these are the duties you will perform, and it is signed and it is put in a file as a contractor. So there should be a non-disclosure, there should be an agreement that she signs.
Well, I'll discuss that further with our attorney. This is, like I said, we've been,
Because she is a contract employee, just like you hire a painting contractor. You're gonna sign an agreement that they're gonna do this for this, for this price, and that's kind of, that's what we're doing, that you're gonna pay, yes, it's pay as you go, but we have an expectation of X amount of hours, can exceed, not guaranteed, but can exceed. And so, it is definitely,
Right.
because if you're gonna 1099, then that's a contract.
Yeah, I'd like to.
well, I know that.
Yeah, but so if you're saying this contractor cannot disclose confidential information, then that something needs to be
I'm just,
provided in writing.
as I said, I'm still trying to get across to, our attorney Will is no longer with the firm.
Huh.
So Cynthia Kirchhoff is Monty's assistant, I suppose, and we're still learning to communicate, so I'll get that in as quickly as I can and get that down. But,
Yeah, we've got, just everything we discuss openly is open communication, but sometimes when we get applications from businesses and they give us some proprietary information or something like that for us to make a decision on, that we don't disclose it to just anybody. There are certain things that we should not be exposing on the businesses that we do. Like a lot of times we're given their budgets and their some stuff to make an educated financial decision on whether or not we're going to move forward with our grants or something, and so that would be something that should not be considered open and public information.
and you'll take the Public Information Act training and the open meetings training. These are free through the AG's office. We'll get you all set up. These are just required. They're nothing special that, you've got to go to training. It's an online video. It's about an hour. So
The other piece to this is, do you have your own laptop?
I do have my own laptop,
So we don't really have, other than like meeting minutes and that kind of stuff, it's like ultimately the server, the city website is where we house all of that, but we do have, QuickBooks is online, so it's just, it wouldn't be anything that would have to be on your laptop, but we have a laptop, but nobody's opened it in quite some time, so.
and the QuickBooks all needs to be backed up because it hasn't been, and I don't know when. So
Yeah, that sounds like a great project A.
let me get out my big pencil. Yes, Jared.
So based on everything you've heard, how do you still feel about this?
I feel good. Like I said, I've been waiting or preparing for a long time for an opportunity like this as a recent graduate. I mean, it's as soon as I saw the advertisement, I jumped on it because I knew that it's the opportunity that I've been looking for. Very so.
Okie dokie. In a case like that, any questions? Any motions? Anythings? Alan?
I'll make a motion that we hire this person. Because we're so inundated with applications.
At a starting salary of $15 an hour,
Exactly.
$17 an hour, how many dollars an hour? That could be
$20 an hour.
What was the last admin assistant?
What's the budget for?
We budgeted for $12 to $15 hours a week at $15 an hour.
Okay, $15 an hour. I'll change my motion.
You good with that?
Yeah, try to get you some more.
We can reevaluate once we have an onboarding process.
We can amend the budget later, but we need to get something on.
Okay, yeah.
Tony,
Second.
second, okay.
So,
Discussion?
I have I do.
She seconded.
She does.
All in favor?
No,
Discussion?
I have discussion. So we'd want to do an effective date in that motion.
6:40 PM on.
Right now, I'll go ahead and leave.
There you go.
Why don't we, our next meeting's the 22nd. This is next week is Easter. You want to start this coming Monday or the following Monday? It doesn't matter to me.
When can you start?
So I can start this coming Monday. I just wanted to kind of go back and ask, I didn't really get to see the pay scale when I applied for the job, so I just wanted to ask if that is negotiable at this point.
So I think anything's negotiable. I think based on the skills that I was reading here, that once we get you on board and kind of get you acclimated, maybe we could do a review process in 3 months or something, and then reevaluate the pay.
Absolutely.
Look at our budget and that kind of stuff, but.
We've also been without an admin assistant for 2 months, so 3 months, so that's just banking, so.
Right. I don't know, how does the negotiating work in an open meeting? That's kind of a funny thing. So, yeah, do we want to take this offline are we okay with negotiating here?
We could take it offline.
Okay. Do we want to go into session? Can we do that in the middle of a motion?
Yep.
Okay.
Going to closed session. Bandera Economic Development Corporation will convene an executive session under Texas Government Code 551074 to discuss personnel, to discuss the position of the administrative assistant.
You're good. We're coming back into open.
It's 7:01. I'm reconvening this regular session of the Bandera Economic Development Corporation. Item 13, action following closed session. The Bandera Economic Development Corporation will convene to consider any action after closed session. Board?
So, I would like to request Alan to entertain possibly amending his motion to have the president of the EDC go into negotiations for up to $20 an hour within our budget for the hours a week.
Okay. That will be exactly my motion, to allow the president to negotiate, to hire this employee for up to $20 an hour.
Got it.
Time is on your side.
So I will second that
Tony
amendment.
seconds. Discussion? All in favor? All in favor, none opposed. Welcome aboard. We'll get with you. You want to come in the office tomorrow, or you want to wait until Monday? Let's wait until Monday.
Okay, Monday sounds good.
I'll email you. You got me.
All right, perfect.
Thanks, Karina.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate
it.
Nice to meet all of you.
Okay, item 14, approval of an expenditure for $40,000 for one half of the principal of the Texas Water Development Board loan to the city of Bandera for water infrastructure improvements for the 2021 to the city of Bandera. Okay. Yes, Tony.
I'd like to make a motion to approve for
Thank you.
this 2021 budget.
Jared, second. Discussion? All in favor? All in favor, none opposed. Thank you. Item 15, approval audit agreement. Oh, yes, that is, between the city of Bandera and the amount of $40,000 for infrastructure improvement. This is an agreement that our attorney drafted for us. We have a template. It's very easily interchangeable for every project that we do with the city. So as you read through it, you will see that it is on a reimbursement basis. And again, I explained the timeline. There's still the resolutions to be read at 2 separate meetings, and then the 60-day wait period. So it will be about June before the city can request this funding.
And do we know what this one in particular is for?
Ma'am?
This infrastructure, do we know what this one in particular is going for? Or they haven't brought, that's what they're bringing?
There's one for 40 and one for 75. There's 2 different ones.
And are they for, do we know what those projects, oh, okay, this one.
We just had this
Yeah,
public hearings on them, okay?
yeah, no, it's all.
So one, so
Actually,
14 is the, 14 is the approval and 15 is the actual entering into the agreement, so they're on the same thing.
Mhm.
Gotcha.
Okay. I didn't realize that either.
Okay. The agreement, Jared?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the agreement between the city of Bandera and BEDC and the amount of $40,000 for infrastructure improvements.
Thank you. Tony, second. All in favor? Oh, discussion, I'm sorry.
Oh.
All in favor? Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, item 16, approval of an expenditure of $75,000 in support of the cost of the City of Bandura Master Plan Phase 2. Jared,
I'd like to make a motion to approve the expenditure of $75,000 in support of City of Bandera Master Plan Phase 2.
thank you.
A second.
Alan seconds. Discussion?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So what is the total cost again? Of
Through
phase two?
Phase
You
3,
said 35 was the first one, that was total, and the city paid the whole thing?
right,
EDC did not pay any of that?
and we paid another $16,000 on this one, on Phase 2.
And then 75 is the
And
remaining
it's
balance?
84,000 is for the whole thing, yeah. And then Phase 3 is another 100,000. It's a $200,000 up through Phase 3, I believe, 210 or 240, something like that. But they've been revised, Tony, because we've revised Phase 2. So I really haven't got any actual numbers to get you. And Phase 4 has not gone to council, and council has not approved Phase 4.
Right, no, I'm talking about just through phase 2.
Yeah, Phase 2 is 84,000.
And why is the city asking the EDC for this much of phase 2?
Because we got a bill before we got we've paid that because we were billed for this prior to this coming to the board for approval. So if you want to make it,
Oh, you mean, so the city got billed for what they approved, and now the city's asking the EDC to help
the
them
city's been
because-
paying it all along, yes.
But okay, so the city knew the bill was coming, whether they were gonna ask. the
Yeah,
EDC
just
for
like
it.
with the Texas Water Development Board loan.
I just have a really hard time paying for all of that.
Well, we have a motion and a second, and you seconded
But
it.
I will say though, that, and I will justify this, if it's a one-time thing, we're not committing for further, and we did have a big lull in funding this last year. I mean, and our revenues were met, our proposed revenues were met, but we didn't have a lot of expenditures with COVID and that kind of stuff. Now, a lot of that was promotional stuff that we didn't pay out and we approved. I don't know.
I think as far as economic development goes, this is right up our alley to improve the master plan for that. And if we can, 75,000 out of what is a projected 240,000, I think that frees up money that the city can better use elsewhere that we can't.
I would agree with that.
Okay, further discussion?
And
All in
doesn't-
favor?
what-
Yeah, I mean,
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, and doesn't this agreement say that the BEDC has already budgeted this amount for the fiscal year of 2021? It's already been budgeted?
It's in your budget, yeah.
Yeah, so if we've already budgeted for this, why would Because it's kind of like, why is it?
Because any expenditure over $10,000 has got to be approved after a public hearing, and then we approve it, and then it
But
goes
I
to
mean,
city
we've
council.
already, it was already planned for in a sense though, right?
But it's not approved
No,
until.
no, but I'm saying, but it was already planned for.
Right.
So, okay.
So this aren't something new that's popping up.
No, 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 no,
Expecting.
no. Y'all just weren't in the budget process.
Right, right, gotcha. So that's,
And you said, so approving this one does not mean that we're approving any future expenditures or,
You're approving this one-time
Just this
payment
one.
to the city
got it.
based on a reimbursement. Okay, all in favor? All in favor, none opposed. Okay, item 17, approval on an agreement between the City of Bandura and BEDC in the amount of $75,000 for Master Plan Phase 2. Jared,
I'd like to make a motion to approve an agreement between the city of
Thank you.
Bandera and BEDC in the amount of $75,000 for city master plan
thank you.
I'll second.
phase 2.
Christine seconds. Discussion?
So who, just to know, so we work with Simple City, is that who it is, and our contacts are there?
Mhm.
And then they'll handle phase 2, and then do they go on to handle phase 3 and phase 4, or they just, okay, gotcha, that was my other question.
Yes, ma'am. Further discussion? All in favor? All in favor, none opposed. Okay, item 18, budget amendments for the 2021 BEDC budget. Do y'all want to make amendments at this time? Do you want to just wait until we get closer to budget time before we do anything?
Yeah, we're waiting.
In a case like that, we will take no action at this time, and we will postpone this. We're not going to table it. We're going to postpone it, because postponing, I can bring it at any further future date. Okay. Item 19, discussion on promotional funding applications. The application is in your packet, if you've had a chance to review it. We've had a few turned in, Jill, 3?
We've had, Maryland, they brought 2 today, but I don't know. I didn't bring them with me, so I don't know. But one was for the, Memorial Day thing, I think, and the other one was for something else, then the cowboy rodeo turned in one
Yeah,
too.
of riding the river.
Riding the river, yeah.
I have sent out reminders to everybody I can think of that the deadline for the city is tomorrow. We haven't set a deadline. But one of the items, the next item on our agenda is a joint workshop with the council. Because, basically, the hot fund that the city disperses and the sales tax promotion that the EDC disperses are based on different criteria, actually, because hot funds are to put heads in beds. And some of our events that are not 2 or 3 days, or those, in my opinion, don't, but I'm just one person, guys, don't qualify for hot fund disbursements. But they would qualify because of the stimulus to the economy for the EDC promotions. But that's a debate that we can have when we get to our joint workshop. Have you looked at this application? Is there anything you would want to change? I hope not, because it's very thorough
It is thorough.
and folks are already using it. Yes,
Just to
Jill.
be clear, the applications that I have received up to today are for the city hot funds, not for EDC.
Nothing for
You only
EDC? Okay,
received that one for EDC, and that was from Riding the River.
okay,
That's
Thank
the
you.
only one that's come in on the EDC side.
and again, these disbursements go back to anytime after October 1 of 2020 forward for this budget year. Would y'all consider, let's see, our meeting's the 22nd of April. Maybe we open up the applications and meet around the beginning of May with the council and get this money out? I know it's way late in the season. This should have already been done by January. I don't know how y'all want to work this. Ideas?
So the promotional funding that we gave out and we allocated in the 1920 budget to be paid at reimbursements, that, because of 2020, there was a lot of them we never paid out. Because there was no reimbursement, they ended up not having the event, so they didn't have any sort of expenses and that kind of stuff. Some of them like the Memorial Day, we try to pay it out from an advertising perspective. They kind of need their money up front too. So wait, is that not reimbursement, is it? This is up front. I'm sorry, I'm mixing my stuff here. So the advertising stuff, we give them when they start advertising for the next event. And so a lot of that they didn't do. Like, we dispersed some of that, but they didn't end up spending it on advertising. So I know Memorial Day was one of those. She held on to that, and then she was gonna join in with the chamber for Labor Day with the Longhorn thing, and then we ended up canceling that. So it kind of rolled over. So has a little bit extra funding, but that wasn't true for everybody. Some people already had those expenditures, and some of them, they never even came to us to get paid out. So I don't think we really know, what our budget is. So I think maybe we should just have this back on the agenda next month, have a real idea of what our budget is, and put the past events that have come for money before, then see if those events are still happening.
Well, I can tell you as far as our finances go, we are ahead of the game again for this year. We have 422, about 460. We have almost 480, 490, 490,000 in the bank. We didn't get last month's check in before the close of the month, but it's going to show up on this month's bank statement. And we got another check for 28,000 just this week, so that's in there too. So that's almost 60,000. We're way doing okay on our revenues.
The other thing I want to point out is this right here, this incentive program mission statement. This actually goes with the grants, because it talks about the businesses and what they should be doing with the money that we give them grants for. This doesn't really go with the promotional funding, but that doesn't mean why we might want to come up with a mission statement for the program, for the promotional programming, so that people understand what the intention of the money is.
And I think everyone's, not only the intention, but know the source. I have been absolutely appalled by people who claim they don't know where they got their money from. It's like, oh, we got it from the EDC. Well, where do you think they got the money,
Yeah, the other thing we put in place that was really lacking when it came to the actual promotional applications was that a lot of these people had gotten to the point where they came to us and just expected the money to be handed over to them. They never tried other sources. They just kept coming here. And it's like for a while we had a big rollover that we gathered up all this 10% and realized that all of it hadn't been spent. And so we had a lot in the beginning, and then it kind of dwindled. We really had to cut it back. So the last couple of years we haven't had the back bank rolling it. So we tried to look at, that's why the application in here is show us your budget, where your money goes, and we focus on the advertising part of it, the advertising of Bandera, to get people from out in, or locals, to generate during that event. So we're
Okay,
gonna roll this to next month?
Ma'am?
So may we roll this to next month? I'd like to make a motion to roll this to next month.
Good idea, Tony. Do you have
Considering
a second?
you seem to be playing with tables and postponing, I thought I would.
Thank you, Jared. Did y'all hear my hearing aid go ding, 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 ding? All right.
I heard a noise and I saw you jump.
No, that's my hearing aid.
Yeah.
That battery's going dead.
Oh,
Okay, discussion?
tells you in your head. Ding.
All in favor? All in favor, none opposed. Thanks. Okay, we've got a city council, establish joint date for a joint workshop with the city council regarding promotional funding. We've got a city council meeting next Thursday. Perhaps we can shoot some dates out after, get the rest of the council and the board. We've already got, input from the board. We're looking at another month or so, so we'll do that.
So you said May, like May date,
Ma'am,
like in May,
shooting for, first week in May or so.
so I can email council and everybody to get something.
See what they do. Yeah, because we're going to have to coordinate everybody together in one.
So like the first week of May, try that.
Does it have to be a Thursday?
You know, it
Okay.
could be any day.
It's like we have something every Thursday in April already.
All right. Item 21, board comments and future agenda items. We got a lot of stuff behind us today, guys, a lot of stuff. We hopefully will never look at another agenda like this. But, it was very repetitive, so anyway, any other thing we need to address besides our promotions? That's about it. Okay. Establish the next EDC. My hearing aid again. Establish the next EDC meeting. Does April 22nd work for everybody? That's the fourth Thursday in April.
Yep.
At 5:30 PM. We will be
Where?
here, unless Jill tells us at the Best Western at 511 Main Street.
Hey, the agenda was posted right, y'all were looking at old agenda.
All right, guys.
Tell me this is revision number 2, 3, 4, so I know which one to look at.
All right, anything else? Got a motion to adjourn? Okay, Jared.
Okay.
Yay, Christine. Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank y'all.
7:21.